Hello folks and welcome. So I have a video for you that is not everybody's cup of tea, but I'm going to be talking about using Secure Shell into doing file sharing with computers on my local network, and also basically possibly looking at information on these computers. I can look at hard drives and capacities. I can perform commands using SSH or Secure Shell. We can also think about it using that for our file sharing. So today's computer is going to be Debian 12 Xfce. I installed the stripped down version of that particular desktop. It only installs the client by default. And later I added server and also a firewall. And I recommend anyone who runs any kind of server software always have firewalls turned on. And I'll show you how to configure this firewall, but I do have a separate video on Linux Mint for firewalls if you want the complete details on Gufw firewalls. And that's what all three of these are running. So Debian 12's IP address, Internet Protocol address is 190 ending. The name of the computer is Debian 124. This laptop is running Cinnamon SSH Server. That's the name of the laptop. Tman1 is the user. And this is a Mate desktop computer named Mate22, running also Linux Mint Mate desktop with server software, and the IP address you can see. Wireless router, fictitious wireless router, standard networks at home or like that, 192.168.1 or .0, and then your server normally ends with a .1 on those ranges, and most home routers run Dynamic Host Protocol or DHCP. None of these are hard-coded. In other words, they're not static addresses, so they could change. But generally, home routers issue the same IP address to your wireless cards, even if you change the operating system. I do this quite frequently on this computer and this computer, quite frequently. One is a laptop, and the other ones are tower computers. I highly advised laptops that you do not have auto logins turned on. It's just poor security, especially if you're running server software. And always make your password and usernames nothing easily guessable. The reason I say auto logins for laptops so heavily is because this sometimes leaves your house or apartment, and you take it to libraries and coffee shops. You leave it behind or it gets stolen, people flip the lid up and they got all your stuff. And the first place they normally head to probably is your web browser to see if you got any web browser auto logins for your bank. So be careful, folks. Do not have auto logins. I don't recommend them on any system for that matter. All right, so Debian 12 does not have a firewall installed. I'll talk about that toward the latter part of the video, and it'll be Gufw. I also installed a piece of software that allows me to use Thunar in a graphical environment, because you will not get that functionality right out of the box. And it is not in your Synaptic Package Manager by default. But I will show you how to install it, and I'm not going to go to the wild west of the internet. I'm going to use Debian package management servers for that. But I'll be using Terminal to install that piece of software, so pay attention to that if you want to use Thunar for this kind of job. So, graphic information, graphically transferring files, and also running commands using Terminal. A little bit of both of everything in this video, and I am filming in 1080. Welcome, folks. System information on this system. I'll probably come back to this a couple of times. Subscription logo is in the corner. Linux Mint for Seniors is the name of my channel. Linux is for any age if you read my about statement, so don't let the name deter you from subscribing. This will be video 500 on my current YouTube channel. Okay? If you don't find that logo, find me on YouTube. Or just do a search for @Linux for Seniors, all one word, in your web browser. All right, let's first do this graphically. There is a file you need to install to do this with, even if you have SSH client and server running. And I'll show you that in a minute. I'll also show you some important files in here. And we'll start with that. So Bob is our user for today. His name is Bob Smith. I also have a Bob L on this machine here, not to be confused with our local user Bob. All right, so on the Mate computer, There's a Bob L user there, and this one is called T-Man, so we don't need to mix those guys up. So in here, under Bob's home folder, as you know, there are hidden files and folders in here. If you want to do it the old-fashioned way, you can do click show hidden. I use Control-H because that's a common command on most modern Linux file managers. So earlier, before this video, in this .ssh folder, or hidden folder, I took the known host file and wiped it clean. The security information will be filled in here as soon as I start logging into SSH. All right, so that's one file. In your file system, I'm going to turn off hidden because you can see the dots in there, Control-H. In your etc. folder, there's a couple of things of interest. One is the SSH folder, which is right here. And if you only have the SSH config and SSH config installed, you are only running client SSH. If you see SSHD underscore config D and SSHD config and other files, then you're running both client and server. Hopefully now you know where those are stored. All right, so there's also the hosts file if you're running this on a local network, for instance, because your local home network doesn't do name resolution. You don't have to do this. I made mention of that many times. Generally, this file just contains this info. I have a t-shirt that has that number on it. There's no place like home. Yeah, I'm a weird bird. So this one has a different number right here, but this is the name of your computer, or it will be. If you're not too sure, open up terminal, and whoever you are logged in as, and then the name of the computer will appear there. And that should match. I added this entry manually, and as you can see, this file is in read-only. Basically, it's a root capability, and all people on your system can use this host file. If you have 10 users on the local system, you can plug in manual entries in here if you want to do name resolution, because your home networks never have that services kind of stuff. Some enterprise services, big environments, network environments do have name resolution services running. They take the IP address and translate it into a name. So this is the poor man to enter that in your host file. You don't need to do this at all. If you don't want to use a simple name like this, you can always in your address bars type this at the tail end. And you can also ping the machine by name, or if it's not in this file, then you can use .local when you ping the name of the machine. Okay, so that's the name of the computer, and that's the IP address. You can put as many entries as you want. Certainly don't have to do this at all. I'm just showing you where the file is in case you want to. So I'm going to close that and do not save. But one of those is in there just for an example. All right, so Gufw is also located in here if you have that firewall installed. I'll talk about the configuration toward the end of the video, but this is the profiles, and they're all owned by root. They all have root permissions on these files. Okay. So Gufw uses these profiles. So I'm going to go back over here. And one more reminder that this file here is empty currently. As soon as I put an entry in there, it'll fill this up with cryptic information. So let's go do and play with that. How do we log in to a computer using Secure Shell? In Thunar, we don't have a connect to computer box like some file managers do. Linux Mint Cinnamon uses Nemo File Manager, and they have a box in here for that. But we're going to use the address field. You can either highlight it with your mouse, or you can use Control-L. Okay? Either way, instead of typing in SFTP, which a lot of people do, I type in SSH : if that symbol has a no on it, and not a no, but the theme that I'm using is default, so it's actually blue with a dash on it. That means you don't have the appropriate software installed. I'll talk about that file toward the end of this video. It's an important file if you wanted to run graphical stuff for transferring and dragging and dropping files, which some people do. So let me complete that. It's SSH colon, that's easier to type than SFTP colon, and then 2 forward slashes, not backslash, forward slash. All right, so the computer here is Mate22. The IP address is there, but the username here is Bob L, not to be confused with our current user Bob. So I already have an account created here. He has an admin capability because later we're going to use terminal to perform commands. The user for this machine is tman1, just to clarify things. So Bob L. So Bob and Bob L are two different guys. This is Bob Smith, not that you can see that in the field here, but this is Bob L. And then I put an @ symbol. That would be shift and number 2 on your upper row of your numeric keyboard. And then I'm going to use the IP address. That's the most conventional way. 168.1 and .172. So I will be talking about troubleshooting also in this video. So I'm going to mess this thing up, and I'm going to put in a 172 instead of that .1.172 and see what we get. What we get is an error, and that error is failed to open file system, no route to host. We're trying to connect to a computer, whether that computer is on your local network or the internet. Okay? We need a 1 in there. .172. Now, since I wiped out my file that is hidden with the security information, this is what I get for the first box. And I just wanted to I wiped the file out on purpose so you can see what this looks like. Identity verification failed. Verify identity for that IP address. This happens when you log into the computer for the first time. Identity sent by remote computer is an SSH key. Would you accept that? Yes, log in anyways. Now I'm going to first log in and then I'll show you the outcome of that file got changed. So Bob L on that IP address we need a password for. I already know it, but I'm going to first talk about these bullets. I normally never use remember forever, but the default is remember password until log out. So it'll remember that until you log out. And that will become important to understand when I make bookmarks. However, for the filming portion of this video, I am going to tell it to forget the password immediately after logging in. So you can continually see that in this video that this box pops up. Okay, that's the only reason I'm doing this. All right, so if I put in the wrong password, I'm putting in gibberish, and hit connect, it'll sit there for a second and then ask the security file on the other system will go and verify that password, and it failed. It doesn't say so, but it says authorization required. In other words, it didn't like it. So you have to put in proper passwords. Now once it connects, I want you to notice that the address bar says SFTP instead of SSH, Secure File Transfer Protocol. Bob L at that IP address is how we're logged in. My recommendation at this point is add a bookmark. Puts it right here. Nice and convenient. Okay. While I'm in here, after I bookmark this, I'm going to show you the main home folder on that system. It has more than one user. Bob L is who we're logged in as. I am not logged in as Mate user. I don't have the authority to do anything with that. Upper arrow key. Bob L though, I can take a peek at his files. And I can also take a peek at his hidden files. I can do a lot of things from here. If I'm running terminal, I can run terminal commands because you're doing graphical file stuff. Terminal commands are a little bit different, and I'll show you those next. But in either case, you can see that I have files here. You want me to show you how to transfer files? Just using one pane instead of two? Okay, I will use split view. So this is the computer that is SFTP into Bob L, This, I can select my home folders. What is in Bob's downloads? Nothing. I'll grab 3 images from the Bob L. Mate computer and drag them over. This is my local system now. Bob, regular Bob, as one would say. And this is Bob L. Mate computer, local computer. Drag and drop. I can also make 2 boxes and dragging and dropping, but I'm just using F3. I'll turn that off. So this is Bob's regular home folder. I transferred these files from that system because this local Debian 12 system is also running SSH Server. Okay? And you can normally do that though with client. However, with this file manager here for Debian, you need to install a special file if you're going to do that in the graphical side of it. So it gets a little complex when we think about things. What is the benefit of bookmarks anyways? Well, I'm going to eject that. It's like unmounting a regular hard drive, right? So when I log into this drive, for instance, this is actually on this computer. These are my demo files. Okay, so I will unmount that drive. So let's say Bob Smith, the user on this system, went ahead and restarted his computer, Bob Smith, and not Bob L, this is Bob Smith, and restarted or shut down and then brought the machine up the next day. Well, he wants to SSH back into the system. First of all, that server has to be running for me to connect using a bookmark. And we can verify communication actually using terminal. I'm going to show you that also for troubleshooting. But I'm going to click that and it's asking me for a password. Again, as I told you, I'm going to use that one all throughout the video. That one happens to be a short password, and I'm sorry, we're doing Bob, sorry. So yeah, that's a long password. Yeah, I haven't created the other one yet. All right, so now I'm back into that system again, and I'm just going to go in and take a look at Bob's files. So at the same time, on this system, since I created that and I have a security certificate for it, it gets stored in here. You remember this file was blank earlier. There'll be a test later for these codes. No, I'm just kidding, folks. So you can see there's nothing but cryptic numbers in here, and you can see the word SSH in some of that. Okay, there's a lot of info in here. So reducing that down, you can see there's quite a big string there. This is one system. All right, so now you know where some of that stuff is stored. So Control H to get out of that, and I'm not going to talk about that file anymore. So we're going to log into the other system. Okay, so basically I'm going to highlight the address and type again SSH because it's convenient instead of typing an SFTP. So that one is Tman1 is the user. It's got to be typed right. Tman1. Filming in 1080. Please tell me you're not watching this on one of those 4-inch screen iPhones or Android. I recommend bigger screens. Okay, computers. I always have that on the bottom of all my videos, all 499 currently. All right, I always recommend large screens. Anyways, moving along. Tman1 is the user at, what's the IP address of that machine? 192.168.1. And since the last one was 72, the other one is 78 on the laptop. We can confirm that by looking at our little chart. 78 is the IP address. And this is also the first time I logged in. So I get the security certificate thing, log in. Again, I'm going to use that. Now, I'm using a very short password on that machine, so I'm going to say this one more time. I do not recommend for laptops to have auto logins, and also if you're running server services, to make the passwords easily guessable. This machine never leaves my house. It stays here. It's a demo laptop. These are tower computers. But in either case, I always recommend using decent passwords, and you know what I mean by that. Something that's not easily guessable by username and password. All right, I'm going to continue now. So now I have a different IP address. We're going to, quote, add a bookmark. All of them now say SFTP, the black bubble that just popped up. SFTP tman at the IP address /. This one says SFTP Bob L at IP address. Okay? So that's something that you can use for convenience purposes. So this is the laptop. It also has two users. Dman I'm not allowed to see. Using the arrow key, tman I am. All right, now I'm going to do a piece of magic here. Maybe not. I'm going to wipe the download folder clean. And just bear with me. I need to slide my keyboard out of the way because I have limited real estate on my desktop. And I'm grabbing a hold of that laptop that has that SSH server on it. And I'm going to log into this system and transfer files into Bob's download folder. This is Bob. Here's his download folder. Okay, so basically I am going to, I have a touchpad on my laptop. I really hate that thing. But in either case, I am going to paste some files. Okay, that was done rather fast, wasn't it? Yes. So I graphically transmitted those files from here to there using Secure Shell, SSH. Because I have SSH turned on and the firewalls are configured properly, so I'm allowed to transfer files this way. I don't have Samba installed here, by the way. All I have is SSH, Secure Shell. And it uses what again? SFTP. What is SFTP? SFTP is Secure File Transfer Protocol. FTP is unsecured. FYI. All right, I think I've probably shown enough file transfers. There's another way of doing this if you'd like to do two windows or two boxes. I'm sliding my keyboard back. If you hit Control N as in Nancy, you can do this also this way. We'll make this Bob and we'll do, we're logged into 72, so I'll click that one. So this is Bob L on that Mate computer. Let me make that a little bit bigger. And I'm going to borrow some files here. So Bob L is our user. What has he got in his documents folder? All right, so this is Bob L, the regular Bob Smith. This is Bob L. Too many Bobs. I should have used different names this time. Anyways, I have that sports PNG in here and I have that straw PNG. They're just not shown in thumbnails. But I don't have 16 and 29, so what I'm going to do is grab these two guys. So I transferred via STP, Secure Transfer Protocol, two files to this local machine, Debian 12. Bob is the user, graphically. Okay. And again, you need to install a piece of software that is not normally in Synaptic. Hold on, I'm at 23 minutes. If you don't have time, again, subscribe and come back at a later date, whenever you have time. Now we're going to talk about terminal and all the magic you can do with that. We can also transfer files here if you know the correct sequence. But really, I've already covered file transfer protocol part of it using graphical, so now we're going to deal with commands. Control-Shift++ to make things bigger. Our local user is Bob, not Bob L, Bob Smith in this case, and the name of our computer is that. So this is Debian 12. All right, I'm going to create more tabs and one more. I'll start with this one. I'm going to SSH into that Mate computer. So Bob L at 192.168.1. whatever. So I think it's 172 on that computer. Let's find out. And it responds back. If this is the first time you've done this, you may see a security certificate. If it is the first time, type in the word yes. It will actually tell you that if you don't type it in properly. Yeah, there's some built-in stuff. But now I am logged into that. And we'll talk about verifying communications after all this with ping. So we need Bob L's password, and if you remember, it's a long one, but it's not being displayed on your screen because it's blank. That's normal. I'm now logged in as Bob L. This is the local machine. This, there's two tabs that are identical. So this currently says Mate 22 on it. But I typed in the address, and you don't see anything referenced to Mate in here. But where it's getting its information from is right here. So this one here, I'm going to SSH into the other computer, the laptop. That one is tman1 is the name of the user at 192.168.1.178, I believe. Password for him is simple. Now that one says tman-lep right on the top here on the tab. I'll show you why this is a little bit having a little fun with this. Now this is the local machine. So Bob, regular Bob Smith, and this is Bob L. This is Debian 12 or Debian 124. Have you ever heard of this command? INXI can give you system information on a lot of things, including hardware. The INXI is not installed on the system, but I'm going to perform that command anyways. Okay, so you'll see, sorry, command not found, bash, bourne again shell. But that's not going to stop me from doing that on the other machines because INXI is installed on the other two. You will find that Linux Mint installs INXI on Cinnamon, Mate, for instance, and I can perform that here. Wow, my screen just got full. All right, so this is running systemd for its init, and I'll actually show you a simpler command for that. Down at the bottom, while we're at the bottom, 16 gigs of RAM, 9% in use looks like. Scrolling to the top, uses a 6.8 series kernel. This is Linux Mint 22 Wilma. This is a laptop, so that's tman-lap. It's not reporting motherboard information, and sometimes you get these cheapy laptops that'll do that. However, it is telling me what kind of CPU it's using, central processing unit, Intel N95 quad-core, graphics chip. All this other information, I'm going to stop at drives. So it's got a single hard drive. It's an NVMe by the designation of NVMe in here, and it's made by Samsung. It's an SSD 990 Pro with heatsink, 2 terabyte. It's a very nice one, actually. I put that in that laptop. I replaced the old one. I didn't care for it. Anyways, let's do an INXI on the Mate computer. Why am I using the big Xfce? Sorry. Oops, let's start again. You know, sometimes it's so hard to talk and type at the same time. I could have also did this the other way. And I will. I'm going to just demo that. I'm going to copy that command and go to the laptop, to the Mate desktop. And let me wipe this out. Sometimes when you do these commands, you'll get a box that'll say, did you mean to copy that security information, especially with sudo commands? You'll see that occasionally. Anyways, Mate 22 is what we're logged in as, and that machine also, let's start at the bottom, is also running systemd. 32 gigs of RAM on that machine, 4% is in use, and let's scroll to the top. 6.8 series kernel, Linux Mint 22 is what it's using. It's a desktop this time, and this time I can see the motherboard information. It reports that. CPU is AMD Ryzen 7 8 core. The system that I'm currently on is a AMD Ryzen 5. It's a fairly decent chip. 15 gigs of RAM, NVIDIA graphic card. This one here runs an AMD graphics card, a Radeon RX 580. It's not too bad. And let's see about the drives. Looks like 3. We have an NVMe Western Digital, 1 terabyte looks like by the model number. PNY, that's the manufacturer, model number CS 900, it's a 250, and it's denoted by SSD. This timesec is also an SSD because I put it there, and it's a 512. So you can see you can get a wealth of information out of these commands. What would you think if I do that on Debian? It's not installed. INXI is not installed on every system, but you can install it through Synaptic Package Manager if you want to on Debian. I chose the stripped down version, remember? But generally I don't believe Debian installs that anyways. But Linux Mint installs theirs by default. And I'm performing those commands directly as I'm logged in on their machines. You can probably see some value in this. So what if I wanted just simple commands? Do you know what that is? So process 1 basically is systemd on this system. This laptop is very busy, so I'll do Control-C to break that. And basically what I mean by break that is get out of it and hit clear and do a PS-P1 on that machine. I'm doing this remotely. That one is running systemd. And that was laptop. Let's do this. Let's punch up clear. So the Mate computer is also using systemd. I already showed you that in the INXI file, but I'm showing you a simpler command for that. So process 1. What about Debian? I already did that, sorry. What's left? No, they're all done. Okay. What about hard drive information? Okay, well, let's punch up clear. So we can use DF for that. And basically that is harder to read for most people, but you're looking for that symbol there. So that represents root. So this is our current drive on the system, Debian 12. It's kind of cryptic to read. So what I'm going to do is use the arrow key, DF-H for human readable. Breaks it down a little bit better. Still 3% no matter how we look at it. It's a little bit easier on the eyeballs though. Laptop. NVMe. Okay. And more importantly, that is the partition. And it's roughly a terabyte. 62 gigs in use, 700 available, 8% is in use. Root on the laptop. And here's the Mate system. And 16%, so a little bit higher use. So 228, I don't know, you can break that down to 235, 240, somewhere in there, depends on the math. But anyway, 16% in use is all I care about. Raw format would be this way. So if you want to think about it, 238, 240, whatever. That's usually how they're labeled. Break it down with the human readable is 228. Still 16% no matter what on both. Punching up clear. All right, do we know what top is? Top is processes. This is the Mate computer. It has 32 gigs of RAM, and basically that's what's going on. And you can see the Bob L sitting there. It just went by for a second. Okay, so Bob L is sitting here. This is the top command, I believe, that's running. I'll wait for it to flash. Yeah, it says top on it. It's actually this process. 32 gigs of RAM, but these are all the processes running on what? The Mate computer. Control-C. And I'll just punch up clear. We'll go to the laptop and run another command here, also called top. That one has 16 gigs of RAM, and you can see that says tman1. That's the name of the user running a top command. Control-C. This is the local machine. 16 gigs of RAM. The top process is Bob, not Bob L, regular Bob, this guy Bob. Who's Bob? I don't know, made up name. Simple screen recorders are top process, and that's what I'm running. Of course, it's going to be our top dog. Control-C. Punching up clear. And I think that's pretty much it. I'm at 35 minutes as far as what I wanted to show you in here. You can also transfer protocol, do file transfers. You can also do an LS, LS on this system. You can do Control C, clear. You can do an LS on the laptop. You can see there's a tar backup. I can use STP also to transfer that file here through terminal, but I'm not going to show that because of time constraints. And this one here, I'll do an LS on that one. And that one has also a tar file called Bob L Stuff. All right, now I'm going to close that and talk about software. Since Debian 12 does not have a firewall, you will need to install this through Synaptic Package Manager. As I made mention earlier, I do have on my YouTube site, if you subscribe, a video called Linux Mint Firewall, and it is the same firewall that this uses. This is not installed by default. You will not find this here. You will need to install it through Synaptic Package Manager if you want to use Gufw. Gufw is an easy firewall to configure. Anytime you are running server services, please think about this for your own sake. Use firewalls. This one is nice and convenient. When the shield is colored, it is in use. When you change these, the colors will change. I talked about that on that video. I also talked about how you can create other profiles. But these are my current rules, only 2, because all I'm doing is running SSH. Again, you can use that for file sharing purposes if you like. There are 2 of them in here. If you don't know anything about IP addresses, IP version 4 addresses look like this. IP version 6 addresses do not look like this. They're longer. They have a bigger string. That's version 6, that's version 4 of those 2 rules. Port 22 TCP is generally what SSH uses by default. A lot of advanced sysadmins will change the port numbers, but you need to do that on both your machines to be able to utilize that. I'm using basic information today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe these clean, because this is how your firewall will come. When your firewall is off, it's a free-for-all. Let everybody in and play. And out is the same. When you flip the switch, you are denying incoming. You're trying to keep out bad people, right? And you're allowed outgoing. That's used doing stuff. And generally this works with your with your web browsers just fine, and your updaters. But not for file sharing, that kind of stuff. We need rules for that. And we're running SSH, so we're going to do a plus. Do you remember earlier when I said there are some extra filters that are installed in the etc. folder under Gufw? That's where these are stored. One more reminder of this. File system, etc. Just type in GUF. You should be able to find it. Or GU is close enough. In here is app profiles. I'm going to click the first 2 and let you see them. 0AD and Overkill. Those are the first 2 files that are sitting right here. That's where these are stored. SSH is actually in here. Okay. Now you know where they're located. They're all owned by root, by the way. So you don't have to scroll. You can do a filter. If you don't know what SSH is, you can click the point at the light bulb. Secure shell. Port 22 is what it's going to use. These are pre-configured rules, and they're plenty good for most people. Allow, in, all. Policy is allow. You can also change that. But more importantly, I sometimes flip these to both. But if you do in, it's got allow over here. And then you can put in 2 rules. If you do both, it'll put in 4 rules. The other thing I talked about earlier was SFTP. SFTP is not found in here. However, FTP is found in here. Look what that little pop-up says. Unsecure connection. Think about using SFTP. It's not in here. I'll use the uppercase spelling if you like. Why is that? Because SSH contains that protocol. So that's why we're installing that. So if you kept the indirection and you have the outgoing allow, then you can get away with doing 2 roles. But sorry, I didn't mean to hit the arrow key there. I meant to hit the add key. So let me go back to pre-configured and do this again. All right, so we're going to do add, not the arrow. That's advanced settings. And you can do other magic with that. All right, so basically it's allow port 22 TCP IP version 4, allow TCP port 22 version 6 IP. So that's why there's 2 entries. IP version 4, IP version 6. If I decided to add the extra ones, both, I'll just leave those. It adds 2 more. So your firewall, depending on where this is set, will now do in, out, in, out. The ones I have highlighted are version 6, and the ones that are not highlighted are version 4. In and out. Port 22 nonetheless. This will work also just fine. How do I verify that? Well, the firewall is on, isn't it? Yeah. So I will disconnect. And sometimes toggling your firewall on and off will also be advisable. As soon as I get a prompt box, I know it's working. And then you can actually transfer a file in here. So let's do that. What am I at? I'm on that one. Okay. When I do demos and talk, I have to take a look to see where I'm at. In this case, I'm just going to do another box and do Bob's folder. And let's just wipe all these. They're just demo files. And what's Bob L? Let me grab some files. What's he got in his downloads? Oh, a whole bunch of stuff. Let's do these 2. That's how I know my firewall's working. It didn't deny these files. All right, 42 minutes. Let's drop into Synaptic Package Manager. So open up Synaptic, log in there, and check these files. So 65,580 packages. You got quite a few things. Let me first emphasize this. I did not add any weird repositories or anything special. These are standard. They're all coming from Debian. You can see that. The first thing I'm going to do is use the search field. Normally this defaults to description and name. I like to do it this way if I'm looking for specific things. Open SSH. So by default, the basic installation, when I installed Xfce, installs the client. All right, and this happens to be a 64-bit computer, by the way. All right, 64-bit, not 32. So I installed SSH Server and SFTP Server. I install these manually. When you install anything that has the word server in it, my recommendation is firewalls and secure passwords, not auto logins, not 3-digit passwords, 4-digit passwords, or you get the idea. You're running server software. When you run server software, may I suggest a firewall? And Gufw is one of those. Graphical UFW or Gufw. Generally the setting is off, so I turn it on. Show package properties on main window. So when this is installed, right click, mark it for install and apply. You can see who is the maintainer and the dependencies and where they're installed. So Gufw is installed in the etc. folder. These are profiles. I showed you them briefly just by those 2 names right there. As I scroll down, you can see there's quite a few things, including games. I'm going to be here forever if I do this. There's one file in here that is not found by default. That is why I will recommend that you look at this address, because I am not going to create this for you since it's already on the internet. If you follow this instruction here, you can use the standard repositories for this instruction, but you're going to be installing GFS backends. Why is that? If you want your Thunar File Manager to be able to connect using SSH, instead of getting an error in this box, when you type in the word SSH colon and you get a circle with a dash in it, that means this file is more likely not installed. And why am I showing this? Because it's not found normally in your Synaptic package manager. However, you can just follow the instructions. All right, more commercials. So HTTPS install ati.1 install -gvfs -backends -debian 12 /. That's the name. Or do a screenshot. What you're going to do though, to install this thing, is you're going to follow these instructions and not install anything from here. I'm not telling you to go to the Wild Wild West. I'm telling you you can use the instructions. However, when you open up your terminal box, you need to be logged in as root. So it's SU, unless Bob is already in the he has the authority to do root stuff, but he doesn't. So I put in that because you were asked to create a root password when you install the system. And you can see that I'm logged in there. So if I perform a sudo space apt -get update, it's going to check. Okay, it's done. The next thing is I'm going to punch in that command in my terminal, and it's not going to install anything from the Wild Wild West. You're doing this directly from your system, not the internet, but you're following the instructions. So that would be sudo apt, let's try that again, get, spelling counts. Now put in a -y and then put in the name of the file. It's a gvfs -backends. If you don't want to install this, then you're not going to be using your Thunar File Manager for drag and drop, okay? Invalid operation, well, let's see, what did I miss? I forgot the install command. Okay, let's start again. That's what happens when you talk. It looks proper. And, oh, maybe too many spaces. Oh, brother. So, talk about a failure. One space, -y, one space, install, one space, gvfs -backends, all lower cases. Bingo, done. All right, finally, my goodness, you can see spelling counts. All right, so even I make mistakes sometimes. Anyways, you can see that it's already installed and now on the newest version. Otherwise, yours will just complete and then do a sudo update as your last command. So, you may not have to do sudo if you're in root mode, but in either case, you can use either one. And we're done. Now I'm going to exit out of there so it'll go directly into regular Bob's account. Now you can see that. I'm going to type in exit one more time and it closes the terminal box. So again, one more, if you just want to copy that address, you can always do back and do a screenshot. You can back the video up. If you want to verify that, I'm at 50 minutes. Let me just talk about this real briefly. Log in here. I highly recommend you do this. And do it by name only. You type in GVFS, and you'll see what that stands for in a second. It's a user space virtual file system, but that's the file you need to make sure you have installed if you are using Thunar for graphical. So that needs to be installed, that needs to be installed, and these need to be installed. So you can verify if they're green. Green is go, green is installed. Okay, I'm going to use Alt and F4 to close that box and say thank you for watching.